Okay, let's let them in. Hello, everybody. We've got a lot of people coming, so just going to wait a couple more minutes. I love an on-time group. This is amazing. Right at the top of the hour, and people are here. That's awesome.
My husband joined in the other room and I could hear it in stereo. Like, oh no. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I saw his name pop up.
She's in my office.
That's not fair. Well, she's the star tonight.
I absconded it. Yeah.
I can go outside.
Okay. Shut the door.
Reminds me of when I was in school, my parents would call me on Sunday nights and they would each get an extension and then begin to argue with one another while I was just standing there. So they just keep coming. I love it. Wait one more minute. Okay, well, let's get started because I can tell this is going to be a great conversation and we want to spend as much time on it as possible. My name is Douglas Spencer. I'm a member of the MCAA Council, and there's a number of other folks on the call that are also members of the council, especially our moderator, Chris Suter, who is our vice chairman, and she'll tell you a little bit more about herself as we go on. But everybody else that's a member of the council, why don't you go ahead and raise your virtual hands by clicking that button so people know who you are. So the Marietta College Alumni Association, we are here to really do one thing, and that is make a connection between the long blue line, all of us who have come from Marietta College, have graduated from Marietta College and still want to support it, and connect that long blue line with current students, with faculty, with administration, and just really try to reinforce all the positive and support all the positive things that we received from Marietta College. If you are a graduate of Marietta College or you went to Marietta College, you are a member of the MCAA. So welcome. Oops. Okay. So here's how you can help us. Follow us on the social media platforms. I will send you a link throughout this where you can click and join. Sign up for newsletters. You can also stay up to date by letting the college know where you are, and I'll send you a link for that as well. We have another Connect 4 series coming up. If you like this one, on Tuesday, May 9th, we are focusing on the education department. So if you have an interest in how we are preparing teachers for the future, please sign up for that one as well. You can do that through the barcode that's on your screen or through the link that's written up above. And I'll also send a link through that in the chat. Couple housekeeping things. Please keep yourself muted. And to help students network, because this will be shared with students, this is going to be on YouTube, which is why it's being recorded, and it's going to be shared with students. So if you want to help students network or want to network with each other, please share your LinkedIn details or anything else that you have in the chat. And speaking of chat, ask questions. Feel free to ask questions. You can do it through chat and I'll relay them on to the group. Or if you just want to wait to the end of the conversation, we usually have a lot of great back and forth with people who are participating. So with that said, let's get started. I'm going to stop sharing and talking, and I'm going to turn it over to Chris Suter.
Okay, thank you, Douglas. Appreciate it. So just as a little bit of an introduction, my name is Chris Zarnick was my maiden name when I was at Marietta, but now Suter. 1984 graduate, petroleum engineering. When I graduated, it was a little bit of a downturn in the industry. So I, did a couple of roles, one in the industry, one out of the industry, then ended up getting married. And lo and behold, I got on with Mobil Oil Company. But it was in the downstream part of the business because the upstream was still in a downturn, but it was an opportunity. And I can say at this point, last spring, I retired after 33 years with ExxonMobil. So, I'm very proud of working in the industry for that long period of time, and I'm excited to be your moderator today. So, just as we get started, I'd like to welcome our panelists, and I'd like to ask each of you to give us a little bit of an introduction of yourself, where you live, what role you play, and just a brief introduction, something you to highlight that you might have. So let's start with Ben, from the department, from the college.
Thank you. I'm Ben Ebenhack. I'm currently the chair of the Department of Petroleum Engineering, which includes geology and environmental engineering now. I am an alum myself, class of 76. I worked for Union Oil when I was a young engineer. I left in 1987 to found a project to work with people in developing countries to find and produce their own energy resources for their own needs. And I have over the years written 4 books on energy systems. And I'm happy to be here to talk about these topics with you tonight.
Okay. All right, let's move on to our student, Grace.
Thank you, Chris. My name is Grace West. I'm a current senior here at Marietta College. I'm double majoring in petroleum and environmental engineering, and I'm also in the McDonough Leadership Program getting my engineering leadership certificate. Just some things that I do on campus here. I was actually the student chair of our 2022 Earth, Energy, and Environment student exhibition that happened on campus last November. And I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit later, but we are rolling that out again this November. So please stay tuned for more details for that. I also am the president of Sigma Gamma Epsilon here on campus, which is an honor society for the earth sciences. And I'm originally from Parkersburg, West Virginia, so not too far from Marietta College myself.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move to our recent alum, Sebastian. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure thing. My name is Sebastian Jaya. I'm a Marietta College graduate from 2020. So I was able to graduate in the height of COVID, which was an interesting time for sure. Graduated with a degree in petroleum engineering and a certificate in engineering leadership. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, and I'm currently living in Houston, Texas, working as a drilling engineer for Southwestern Energy.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, but not least, Don Ritter, our seasoned alum.
Seasoned, yeah, that's a nice word. Yeah, so Southgate, Kentucky, which is really closer to Cincinnati than Cincinnati. It's where I grew up. Currently live in Dallas, Texas, or Farmers Branch, a little suburb. My current role, well, that's an interesting one. I've had many roles over the last few years. I've started several oil companies. I think 5 is the number right now that I've started. I've sold 4 of them and have one left that I might probably sell in the next 6 months or so. So I'm kind of winding out of the industry after 40-something years. But looking forward to what I will call the new phase of the industry is really kind of the Center for Earth, Energy, and Environment, and a refocus and a recasting of what petroleum engineering can be in the future. We're not going to run out of oil anytime soon. We're going to need it for a while. But I think we might see petroleum engineers with a little more focus on things that used to be ancillary to petroleum, but now are going to be mainstream. Carbon capture, which is one of the big technologies that are coming, is going to require drilling engineers. The same with using salt domes as storage for batteries and storage for hydrogen gas. Again, the same technology that we used in the oil and gas business to drill and create salt caverns and put gas in there under pressure and then release it when we need it. So plenty of things to do that petroleum engineers know how to do every day. We just might have a different title.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's start out a little bit talking about the academic side of things. So we'll start with Ben, and I'll also offer for Don to chime in because I know he was very instrumental in this process. But so as Earth, Energy, and the Environment, also known as EEE, is a new initiative, a new program that the college has. Can you share with us what was some of the motivation of that? You know, what do you think will make it special?
Well, one of the motivations was to offer more options to our students for those that might want to be playing a leadership role in the upcoming transitions and be, have more tools in their tool chest to be able to ride out whatever the future holds for us. I think some of our special opportunity lies in the fact that we can really speak to where we are now and where we can go from here. A great many programs that ostensibly work on sustainability and energy transitions and so on have a tendency to want to leapfrog to their imagined future. As Don mentioned, oil and gas aren't going anywhere anytime soon. In my second last book, I did a calculation. If the world were to achieve 20% solar photovoltaic energy in 20 years, what would be required? And that seems like a modest goal, but it requires the manufacture of 11 million 200-watt solar panels a day. 200-watt solar panels the size of an average desktop. Way more, about 600% roughly more than we're manufacturing today. So we need to build the factories, create more mines for the minerals to make the solar cells. All of this in order to get onto a path where solar could replace 2/3 of coal, let alone start tapping into the higher value oil and gas markets. And two, one of the things that I think a lot of Americans are oblivious to is that half of humanity lacks access to modern energy. Some 3.5 billion people remain primarily firewood dependent for their energy sources. And this is extremely unsustainable. It leads to deforestation. World Health Organization estimates it kills 4 million people a year. We've got roles to play in helping all of these kinds of transitions. So I think that we are very well positioned to look at next steps. What makes the most sense in the coming few years and then few decades.
Okay, Don, do you have anything to add?
I think we are heading in that direction. We're being pushed and shoved in that direction in some respects, legislatively. And one of the interesting conversations that Ben and I had while we were in Dallas a few months ago. Ben and Bob Chase and Ahmed came down, and we went to an energy conference here in Dallas, put on by SMU, which is my other alma mater. And it was very much a all of the above discussion, and touched a lot of points. But the most interesting point to me, and I think one that we'll try to think about making a big part of our conference coming up is, yeah, we're going to go through this transition, but when? What is the real timing? You know, we are being legislated that we are going to have electric cars in California 2/3 by 2030, I think that was the last thing I heard. Yet the grid is nowhere near capable of running what California runs currently. They are, you know, getting rid of a lot of their natural gas power. It's not going to be replaced by wind. It's not going to be replaced by solar in the levels that it needs to actually fire these cars up. And, you know, it's a lot of this is being legislated ahead of us. And the question is really, are we ready to catch up? And can we put what I would call a realistic timeline together on when transitions, and there's going to be more than one transition. You know, there's going to be the transition out of coal. There's going to be the transition away from oil, but not without it as a transportation fuel. The transition to more solar, to more wind. But as we learned at this conference, the more wind and solar you put on the grid, the more unreliable the grid is, which means the more coal and gas plants you have to build to be able to handle the peak loads when the wind doesn't blow. And, you know, in Texas, the wind can not blow for 5 or 6 or 7 days. And, you know, and then 25% of the power goes off the grid. So you have to have backups, and no one's really thought it through. It's just how this step-by-step transition is going to happen. And I think that's going to be one of the key areas, not only for our conference to discuss, but I think that's the role that Marietta could play in this entire energy transition, is to get a grasp on how it can actually happen and when it can happen, and are we putting the steps in the right order.
All right, great. All right, so let's talk to Grace a little bit. She's graduating in a few weeks with a double major of petroleum engineering and environmental engineering. So I want her to share with you, like, what drove you to go for that combination? When did it happen within your tenure at Marietta?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I get that question a lot, actually. I thought Marietta College provided me with an amazing resource to come into our highly esteemed petroleum engineering program. And actually, my freshman year was the first year that we had rolled out the environmental engineering program as well. So I thought it was an incredible opportunity for me to display some of my strengths and where I want to go in industry, partially wanting to provide more affordable, reliable, and ever cleaner energy for the population. And I knew I wanted to be a petroleum engineer, work in the oil and gas industry, and the environmental engineering, like I said, providing that more reliable, affordable energy source is where I want to go. And hopefully after graduation, I'm able to continue on that road.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, let's just talk to our alums about their experiences back at Marietta College back in the day, you know. And we'll start with Sebastian. Can you describe the department when you were back at Marietta College, and can you share with us any extracurricular or any internships you had that may have been meaningful in your future?
Sure. Yeah, I was pretty involved throughout my time at Marietta College. I played soccer all 4 years. Like I said earlier, I got my certificate in engineering leadership. I was part of AAD, or the American Association of Drilling Engineers. I was a vice president and president for several years. Actually co-founded the Marietta College Oil and Gas Technical Exhibition, which has evolved since. And then in terms of internships, I had 3 summer internships throughout my time at Marietta. I was fortunate to have one lined up pretty much after my freshman year with Southwestern Energy, and every summer after that. Those internships gave me some pretty good hands-on experience and projects, and helped add some extra learnings to, an aspect that you don't usually get just in the classroom. So
excellent, excellent. Don, how about you? Thinking back to the 80s, or I guess the 70s into the early 80s. What was it like in the department back then?
That's when the drinking age was 18, and we had
I was there too.
On campus, and 50 kegs and all that fun to go with it. But the program was pretty demanding, and I think it challenged us pretty hard. I had 3 internships. I was one of the few that had a summer after a freshman year, which was just some whiteboard note that said Drillco in Marion, Ohio is looking for somebody for the summer. And so I called and found out what it was, and it was a $4 an hour job, essentially swinging a sledgehammer somewhere between 12 and 14 hours a day. And that was my summer, beating on these drilling tools, inspecting drill pipe. I put more hours in than I think the accounting system could handle at a couple times. And even one week, I made more money than the district manager because I had so much overtime. And so he actually came out to find out who was making more money than him. But that was at $4 an hour, and a lot of hard work. That really kind of paid off in learning what work really was. I went back and studied really hard after that so that I could make sure I got out of school and didn't have to work from the neck down. And had 2 more good summers, one with Conoco and one with Chevron. And then I went to work for Mobil Oil as well as a drilling rig supervisor for a few years, and then as an engineer. And then I did a back and forth between drilling engineer and drilling supervisor, worked a lot of international projects, got to drill the first 2 appraisal wells in Qatar in the North Field, drilled offshore Nigeria, offshore Australia, back and forth, then went into kind of reservoir and project team, and got to manage the South Caspian area. And then we went back and bid on that, and we had the opportunity to build a drilling rig. So I left the asset manager role, went back into the drilling, and built the drilling rig in the Caspian, and then came back and managed a lot of our joint venture projects. And during that time, I actually went back to school and got an MBA. And then the ExxonMobil merger occurred, and Chris went on to an illustrious career with ExxonMobil. And I knew that I could not make the donuts and work in that very strict environment, as I learned in my organizational behavior class and during the MBA. The culture just wasn't going to be a fit for me. So I left and went to work for a startup software company and spent a few years doing that. We sold that to Baker Hughes, and then I started my own oil company and did that a couple of times. And so it's been a very interesting career, starting out in the very traditional role of working with a major, but then taking a U-turn about halfway through.
Okay, thank you. So I know we heard a little bit from both Don and from Ben, but I also want to hear from Sebastian and Grace. So with how the energy industry is evolving, what are your thoughts of what the program should be focusing on going forward? Let's start with Sebastian.
Yeah, sure. Obviously there's been a real shift and focus on ESG, sustainability, and social responsibility industry. I think oil and natural gas companies are starting to invest millions of dollars into reducing emissions and purchasing carbon credits and producing certified products such as natural gas. So I think the way the program's going with the AAA is definitely in the right direction. And then in terms of my everyday responsibilities as a drilling engineer, I think all, if not, or most, if not all of my decisions are data driven. So just knowing how to gather, process, and formulate decisions play a pretty big role in my everyday responsibilities. So I think the program should continue focusing on all the basics of petroleum engineering like they have been, but I'd probably recommend an extra added focus on data analytics.
Yeah, no, I would say, whether it's downstream up in anything in business, that's spot on. I think I totally agree with you on, data decisions, data driven decisions are, the way to go. So, I mean, what the expectation is. And if you've got more of that coming in, it definitely will help. How about you, Grace? What are your thoughts?
I definitely think the department is going in the right direction in terms of incorporating, the earth, energy, and environment spaces into our traditional petroleum engineering program. I mentioned earlier that we, in the last year, had the Earth, Energy, and Environment student exhibition, which had formerly come from Sebastian, was on the original coordinating team for the Marietta College Oil and Gas Technical Exhibition. And one of our main focuses in this event was to really roll with the times, if you will, to lead in that sustainability role, to show that in the oil and gas industry, we do practice, health, safety, and environment. We aren't just sticking in that traditional role, we're evolving as well with industry. And we actually had a lot of great company turnout from all sides of the industry: earth, energy, environment, petroleum engineering, environmental engineering. And I think that was a really great showing for our students that there aren't just typecast roles coming out of this program, that you really are versatile. The department prepares you to be, critical thinkers and problem solvers, and we get to use those roles and wherever we end up after graduation. And so, to wrap that up, I really do think the department is going in the right direction. And, coming from myself, being a petroleum and environmental engineer, I've seen that kind of come to fruition throughout my internships as well. So I think it's a great call.
Great. So Sebastian, I guess just wrapping up from the academic side of things and, well, I guess into your career is, can you share with us anything on, how you thought your Marietta College degree prepared you for your career, and or really how was the degree perceived in the industry and the prospects as you went through your job search?
Yeah, my degree was perceived really well. And I think given its size, one thing that surprised me after graduation was how strong the alumni network is. I've met and spoke with several different vendors throughout the nation, and at least, every person I've talked to knows at least one Marietta alum. So that's pretty cool. I think it was Marietta alumni that were part of, there was recruiting teams at Southwestern and Anadarko that kind of helped secure those summer internships for me. So overall, I think the degree is perceived, really well.
Okay. How about you, Grace? I know, we'll let you share with the rest of them, because I got the inside view before we started our conference. Just, what are your plans after graduation for your career?
Yeah, and let me kind of piggyback off of Sebastian for a moment, that our alumni network is absolutely incredible. I previously this past summer worked with Chevron in Bakersfield, California. And I think in my first week there, I had several alumni reaching out to me, asking me how everything was going and just for support. So I can't thank the alumni enough, and just know that we really appreciate you as current students reaching out to us. But after graduation, I'll be going to Pascagoula, Mississippi with Chevron. So in Bakersfield, California, I actually worked on the upstream side of things as an environmental engineer. So I worked in reducing methane emissions off the wellhead in an oil field out there. And now I'll be going to Pascagoula in the refinery side. So I'm going downstream, and I am also in the environmental engineering space there as well. So water discharge and methane emissions are what I'm looking at in the refinery space now. So it's kind of a cool cross-discipline use of my two engineering degrees. And I think Marietta College has really prepared me for both of those roles.
Excellent. Great. We're excited for you. Okay. Don, help us out here. So if you look back on your Marietta College degree, and I know, you've taken us through your career path, which was, long and extensive and, pretty impressive. What do you think, as you look back on it, that your Marietta College education, brought to your career that others might not have had?
Probably the ability to work on a team, and to really set some goals and move towards them. Maybe just a more of a general thing that happened at Marietta. I think also the ability to speak and to write and to mentor. We've had mentors as we were going through school. I think that's something that we have naturally kind of picked up over the years, and I think that's something that wherever you see a Marietta College grad, they're almost always in a leadership role, whether it's a team leader or they're leading a business unit or they're in the very senior management of the company. You never see them parked off to the side. So they're always there. They're always pitching in. And I think that just general, we can do it attitude just kind of sticks with you.
Yeah. Yeah, just building on that, I think myself, I think the leadership opportunities that you had, whether they were in social events or sports or with academics, because it's a small school, and we know most of the schools that offered petroleum engineering that you're competing against were huge institutions. You had so many opportunities to lead at a very young age, and I think it really, from my perspective, provided a phenomenal foundation in that area. Okay, so let's I guess just really wrapping up that career aspect of things or getting jobs. Ben, can you share with us what does the faculty or the college do to support our students as they're in their job searches?
Well, we do what we can. We, networking is right at the heart of it. We try to be, have our presence at SPE meetings, at AADE meetings, all kinds of things like that, so that we're out there. I think many of you were from the Bob Chase era, and
Yep.
at every SPE meeting I've ever been at that Bob Chase had, at the alumni reception or anything like that, the first word out of his mouth was jobs.
Yeah.
And I'm not as outgoing as Bob is. I'm not as good at twisting arms as Bob was. But we try to carry that forward. We try to bring speakers to campus. And a lot of those speakers are alums themselves. A lot of the recruiters are alums. Having dropped Bob's name, I'll mention to you that he hasn't gone away. I was talking to him after church on Sunday about job opportunities that he might be aware of that I might have missed. And of course, we try to mentor the students. First semester, one of the requirements in what was Petro 101 has become Pile 101 is to complete a CV or resume that passes our review that they can post online with the Career Center. And we do have a good, strong Career Center. It's gone through some transitions, but I think they're being active and working with us.
Yeah, I would say our experience with it was a very, I don't know, maybe not formal process with petroleum engineering, but I would say probably more so than any of the other departments. The recruiting was very strong. I would say until it wasn't, but in the waves. I mean, it's a cyclical industry, but yeah, I think you're right. There's a lot of networking, and yeah, Bob Chase is definitely out there, and we saw him down here in Houston at the golf tournament last November, if not other times. But appreciate that, and appreciate all you do to help and support our students and connect them with our alumni. I know, as we've said it, I mean, a lot of people got their first internships because they had recruiters that were Marietta alums that could make those connections, and they know what the kids were bringing to the table. So just, we just got to keep supporting each other in that area. So, we touched on a little bit, I think Don did, with the liberal arts education. Is that something that it's really a question for all of you of, what do you think that liberal arts education brings to the table above and beyond an engineering degree or an earth science degree?
In my opinion and my experience, I enjoyed, I like literature. I'm an odd engineer in that I've always enjoyed literature. But the real value to my career was well into my career when I could reflect on, a young professional one time asking me how I could even start a log analysis because everything's unknown. There are so many more unknowns than there are measurements. And I got thinking, well, the literature courses helped me with that. Analysis in uncertainty, that comfort level. Oddly enough, I think the lit courses helped me there. I think that certainly the communication skills are, I think probably the most conspicuous. And I've heard a number of recruiters and company people say that in general, you can tell a Marietta alum from School of Mines, A&M, all the rest, by their communication skills.
Yeah, I'll second that, and then I'll add in a little more. You get exposed to a lot of things at school, and I actually, as petroleum engineer, you had to have 136 hours. I don't know if it's still the same or not, and you had 124 to graduate with a Bachelor of Arts degree or just about every other degree in the school. So we didn't really have time to take all the classes we might like to have had. I became a great art history buff after school, not because I had a class at Marietta, but I was exposed to it at Marietta. And it was kind of interesting. And, I spent probably 10 years or so visiting the best museums in the world because I had this kind of free pass to go fly anywhere in the world I wanted to on Mobile's nickel. And so I spent a lot of time in art museums, spent a lot of time related to music. I was interested in music when I was at school. The guitar you see hanging behind me was built by a guy named Jim Stevens, who used to be the financial aid advisor at the school. And he was a fantastic luthier and made a lot of dulcimers. But that's one of the guitars that he made, and it's literally one of the best guitars I still have ever played, and I've played a lot of guitars. But that introduction to music, and so I think the thing that's interesting is you can have a lot more to talk about. When you meet someone, you're not just zeroed in on differential equations or the last chemistry experiment you did. You can talk about pretty much any subject, and I think that helps you just relate and adds to that communication opportunity and gives you other areas to reach out, knowing that you can go look at any other thing you want to look at. You don't feel like you have to stay in engineering because you have a base that says, well, I could have been this or I could have been that. I had that 124 hours as well, so I don't feel like I'm limited. That makes sense.
Yeah, sure. Grace, you have anything to add?
I absolutely agree with the previous comments. I think our engineers come out more well-rounded than some of the other schools. I mean, because our engineers can absolutely do those calculus problems or the chemistry equations. We can do all that and more. I mean, talking about the leadership department as well, I've really gotten to experience not what it's like to be a leader and also a follower and to be a strong member of a team. And I think that has really helped me in my internships as well, not only on the leader side, but learning how to best support my business unit. And I think that comes from the benefits of a liberal arts education.
Great. And Sebastian, anything to add?
No, just I agree with everyone's comments.
Okay. I know whoever was going to be last was going to have a tough one adding something on. All great comments. I appreciate it. So I think we're going to get ready to open up for some questions from the audience. We've got a great number of people with us today. So I don't know if somebody wants to raise their hand, or you can put questions in the chat. Okay, we have Phil here.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
From Alaska.
I'm calling in from, I'm a 79 graduate, Marietta Petroleum Engineering, and calling in from Alaska. And a couple comments I jotted down here. I wasn't going to bring this up, but you mentioned some of the benefits of the liberal arts education, or it may be. For years, I'm going to go back 40 years, we've been saying we're the more rounded, we got the better communication skills, we got this from others. I think that's true, but in reality, I think what it is we understand the situational leadership a little bit of, as Grace said, when to follow, when to lead. And the other one is in a weird way, I always attracted to conflicts. When there were conflicts in the office or on the job site or whatever it may be, I saw that as an opportunity. That was exciting as hell to walk into the middle of that and see if you could resolve it. Now, I don't know if I ever got that from Elmer Templeton. I think he created more problems than he solved. But there's a great deal of benefit to have someone who's willing to walk into the fray. Somehow, both parties you've developed a relationship with both to where they respect you, and you can actually find common ground and get them back moving the same way. And it didn't matter what position I was in, whether I was in a leadership position, well, not a leadership, but a management position or an engineer. I don't know if that's something I just was born with, but certainly through Marietta College, it was certainly enhanced. So, and thank God there are people like us, and thank God there's people like folks from A&M who sometimes just need something to follow, someone to work out the problems, the conflicts, and let them get back to their technical ability. So I don't think they're any better or any worse. We're just a spoke in the cog and or in the wheel, and it seemed to work that. One other comment on the questions on the program Earth Engineering Environment. I think the program there. There were a lot of questions that came up about timeline. What are the steps? Which one you do first? Usually when in my career, when we had that, you did a lot of sensitivities. You just did sensitivities out the yin yang until you figured out which ones were key drivers, which ones weren't, and then found out if the key drivers were valid under any timeline or any scenario. And if so, then you worked on those. And I got to believe those that are closer to it can do sensitivities like that and come up with something that is a win-win, definitely, no matter where you're coming from, environmentally, engineering, whatever it may be. And then government hopefully puts seed money or puts out the laws, perhaps, at times, and get after it. So to discuss it in the terms of, well, there's many ways we can go, who knows, we're in a rat's nest, we're all in this together, we've never seen this before. I just see that as an opportunity to sit down and do sensitivities and figure out the the key main drivers, perhaps have someone share them where everyone's going to nod their head and say, yep, that makes sense, and get after it. I also think one of the key things there is conservation. I still don't understand how, I think most Americans, most Europeans, well, maybe not Europeans or in Ukraine, could probably cut 20% out of their energy consumption tomorrow. And that would be a huge head start while all this research is going on. So those are some of my thoughts. Certainly did enjoy the conversations you all had, and seeing a familiar face, but it looks like he left the screen. So thank you.
I'm still here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate your
insights.
insights. Yeah, they might have just taken off their video. We have another question from Tanner.
Hi, we'll call myself the Middle Ground alumni, class of 2016. Worked petroleum engineering, worked for multiple operators. Now I do consulting, still in the drilling engineering side. This is more of a question, I guess. Also, I live in Northern California, probably the only petroleum engineer who chooses to live in Northern California, the Bay Area. But a lot of this is concerning, we had talked about it earlier, Sebastian, I believe, is like data analysis. Has the coursework changed? I mean, I remember being there and VBA was being taught, and VBA was irrelevant in, we'll say, 2005. I mean, so it's like, specifically is R, Python, minimum of SQL. I mean, I know when I was looking at other, when I worked for operators directly, we were looking at new engineers, and if they didn't have a minimal statistics or minimal data analysis skills, we basically just were moving on. It, especially being able to access the data yourself, really sets it apart. So what has the program done to address those gaps?
Yeah, I'd like to answer that. We've been recognizing those needs for some time. We're taking advantage of the downturn in enrollment now that we're not having to teach overloads every semester to try to move on that. Last semester, Professor Sarkar, Rakib Sarkar, had room in his schedule to teach the Computer Science 210 course so that he could get a firsthand look at what's being taught in that course and see what room there is to bring it more in line with our students' needs. He also has this semester launched a CAD elective course. Now, in terms of data analytics, nationwide, there's been a lot of discussion about whether to integrate big data into many courses or have a standalone course in it. I think we are deciding that it should be some of both, all of the above again. We're trying to figure out how to create and place a data analytics course. One of the things that I've been working on these last few years is revising our curriculum so that a few courses have been made elective, which creates the opportunity for students to take other electives. I'm pretty pleased with what we've been able to do in that regard. We've still got another course or two that we might make elective yet, so that there is room in the curriculum for some more of these newer courses.
Okay, all right. So we've got another question that came through on the chat from Janice Donahue. And she says, what are the best strategies to spread the word about our excellent CWE education? How do we promote it with our potential students? Sorry, I've got a cold.
I'll say, we're trying to get out to high school, junior high school students. We've launched a mobile environmental engineering lab this year. and one of our geology profs and our environmental engineering prof are going around to schools. We also have launched a summer camp. We're actually looking at combining forces on summer camps with physics and math and the other STEM programs, so that if somebody comes for a space camp, they hear about petroleum engineering too, and vice versa. So we're trying to reach out those ways. In a bigger picture sense, I don't know if Don's got something to add on that.
A couple things. I think one thing back to the previous question on data. I know that part of our plans for the CEEE and the expansion, the building expansion, kind of a little bit later plans, we're really incorporating a lot of GIS and data. There was a whole whole GIS lab set up as part of that effort as well. So I think that's, from my perspective, the GIS data, and then the other big data sources that we use mostly from a drilling standpoint, Inverness used to be the old Drilling Info. They've brought a lot of that data together and some tools to be using that data. I don't know that it takes a particular data management or big data class to understand how to use Inverness or how to use Petra or any of the other big GIS data systems. But I know that on a GIS basis is starting to kind of infiltrate into everything. I know drilling engineers use it more than they ever thought they would these days. And I think, the other perspectives are how we're going about putting the programs together. I think they're being put together in a way that we're going to integrate a lot of the thought processes. And really, as I step back and think about what kind of problems we're trying to solve in the CEEE, it's the integration problem. There's 5 or 6 or 7 different disciplines that you have to wind together. I think one of the other things that we have going is the conference that was mentioned by the 2 previous chairs. It reaches 3,500 students, 400 universities, 80 countries. Marietta is definitely on the map in the education space as a leader in the EEE style classes and interactions. So I think that's the other thing that we're gonna find ways to use that and try to funnel some of those students back to Marietta, either through some online courses or some interesting ways to invite them to be transfers. I think there's some things that we can do there that can help spread the word. So back to how to spread the word. I think we have a lot of reach, and we can get it from there.
All right. So I have another question that came in from Erica Smith of our advancement department, and it's really for our panelists as well as any of the other guests that have joined us. What advice or words of wisdom would you give to students that are early in their college career at Marietta College? Anybody who wants to go?
I'll jump back in.
Okay.
I think I had the honor to be commencement speaker back in 2018, and I left everyone with some books, and I encourage anyone to go Google that and find that list. Those are some great books that if I would have read them during college or right after college, I could have probably skipped ahead 10 years. And so I would say, don't just try to learn what's at the school. Go look for some other frameworks to put that knowledge into. And a lot of these style books have some real frameworks for you to put your knowledge into and be able to use that when you get a little further along.
And I'd say never look for trying to have an easy semester as a student. Always try to find what else you can fit in so that you're getting your biggest bang for the buck in your learning.
Yeah, we've got another answer coming from Christian Sanders, who's also on our MCAA council. He said, get involved early and often. When I'm looking at your resume to hire, your GPA is great, but it also shows balanced creativity and engagement. And I think that's spot on, right? It's not just the, I know very much as I recruited a number of years ago, but I was bringing in young engineers, and it wasn't just what's that GPA. It was we were talking about experiences, and those experiences could be ones. How did you react to things that were something you didn't expect or whatever? And it wasn't always just from work, but it was always what did you learn from the various experiences that you had? So great point.
I'll add go Greek.
Go Greek, yeah.
Add to those experiences. And I recruited as well for 15 years for mobile. And I can tell you, I would not hire 4.0s at all. In fact, I would barely hire anybody over a 3.5. I always looked for that 3.0 to 3.5 student that had 2 sports and a fraternity or a sorority, and they were involved in 4 other things because they had to figure out how to get all that into a day. And they weren't just trying to get an A. Like that's the one thing when I looked at, and I mean, there are brilliant people and they can do all of it, but they're very few that can be 4.0 and do all that stuff. And the other thing is, if you've got a 4.0, you've never failed. And there's no better character builder than failure. And so I actually look for failure. When I hired kids, I looked for times, I drug it out of them. Tell me about a time you failed. How did it feel? How did you get over it? What got you past that? That's the character builders that really, really make great employees. So might not be what you think you would have got, but that was my perspective.
Okay, well, we're coming to the top of the hour. Does anybody have any last minute comments they'd like to share with our students that could be listening, share with our recent alums that might be on the call here or otherwise? Or
I'd suggest you go 4.5 years instead of 4 if you're an engineering student, and every semester take something that's completely out of your range. I did that. I took horseback riding. I took guitar class. I took voice class. I took history of the radical right from crazy history teacher. And I think those were wonderful because you did have an opportunity then to mingle more in with the non-engineering students. There isn't a rush. You're going to be educated the rest of your life. Yeah. Someone's got to pay for it, but it's well worth it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. As a father who's paid for 5 years of college for 2 kids, yeah, I know that feeling.
Okay, well, I would like to thank everybody for joining us this evening. I think we had a great conversation. Appreciate all the insights, the questions, and we look forward to you joining one of our next Connect 4 series.
Thank you.
I'll have to end it, even though I'm not a Go Pios person. We'll end it with Go Pios.
Go Pios. Hankins.
You all.
Great job. Thank you very, very much.
You.
Went very well.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. Ben, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were an alum. We should have publicized that as well.
He got it out there.
He got it out there.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm a really old alum.
Yeah. So are you happy with how it turned out? Do you think is this what you were hoping for?
I thought it went well. Yeah. I hope other people did too. They've heard about CEEE and some of our thinking behind it. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity for the college moving forward.
Yeah, great.
Hey, there's my brother-in-law on there.
Oh.
Sorry. Nice job. Very nice job.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Ann. All right, Grace, thank you so much. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see you at graduation weekend.
I can't wait.
I'll be there.
Thank you.
Night all.
Bye.